I wish for you to have a heart.
Get your motor running out on the highway, looking for adventure.
Hey folks, welcome to another Broken Meeple review. Yes, it's been a little bit up and end as to getting some of this content out, but it's been quite a busy past couple of weeks, mainly with work. They've been sending me to all sorts of different locations, and it means I don't get back till late, meaning I don't get time to do these reviews. Well, we're going to start catching up with some great titles, and we're going to make a big start with this big one. Have you always wanted to make your own library? Okay, just me. Well, here you go. Ex Libri. I think that's how you pronounce it. Ex Libri or Ex Libris. I'm not entirely sure. I'm probably going to mess up the pronunciation, so sue me. But this is a new title by Renegade Game Studios, who have been sort of up and end as to the titles that they've put out. And it's all about building a fantastical library. You essentially have all these cards that have books on various different categories. It's a worker placement game where the locations chop and change every round, and each player will be sending their workers, including a special worker, I'll get into more detail on that later, to the locations to collect book cards, to trade, to sell, to do all sorts of interesting shenanigans in order to build their library. With the library, it's essentially like having a tableau in front of you that you have to be aware of where everything goes, because at the end of the game you will get marked on this frankly awesome inspection form score pad as to whether your library is in alphabetical order, whether the shelves are stable, no overhanging shelves, have you got the prominent works in there, any banned books, any focuses that you want to do, have you got a nice variety of books, all sorts of different criteria. And it's a very not cutesy, but very colourful, fantastical setting, and it's fairly light-hearted in its theme. It's got a lot of humour with the in-jokes on the books, but essentially you will carry on every round sending workers out, getting the books, shelving them into your library until eventually someone reaches a particular limit, and then the game will end after the next round. Tally up the points, see who wins, job done. Fairly straightforward game in terms of its turn sequence and how to play, but we'll get onto more details as to where it slightly falters a little bit later. Firstly, let's talk about the good stuff. Components. Love the way this looks. There's some minor niggles, I'll get onto that in a minute, but generally this is a solid production. Not the cheapest game in the world, but you're getting your money's worth, I feel. At least certainly in the artwork and the aesthetics. Because the cards themselves, all the books look great. There's unique in-jokes on every single book on 150 plus cards. And even when you're waiting for your turn round, it's good just to read those in-jokes. It's really cool. But the books themselves look great. The locations and the main board look sublime. They are really nicely done. Vibrant, colourful artwork. This game just kind of sings. It just glows from the table as you're playing it. People have always come by as we're playing it going, ooh, okay, what's this? Because they want to see all that. The first bite is with the eye, as they say, and this one certainly does the trick from a looks perspective. Great artwork, great colour, the score pad, as I mentioned, it's a dry erase score pad, so you don't have to worry about running out of paper. You simply just use the supplied dry erase pen and use it on what is essentially a checklist. It literally is done out like an inspection form. There are one or two minor issues though with components, and these are minor and it may just be me, so this is a very small niggle. But for some reason, this dry erase pen Has a nice little cubby hole that sits in the insert, which, by the way, is really good design, actually. Yeah, granted, you might have been able to shrink this a little bit box size-wise, but the insert fits everything, including sleeved cards. I know because I've done it. All the locations, this on top, very good insert. This ran out after one use, which is kind of weird. I used it in one game, and then it just ran out. By the time I came to use it again, it just ran out. Nothing on there. I don't know why. I had the lid on it. I don't see why it should have faltered. Maybe I didn't put the lid on tightly enough. I don't know. Has anyone else had this problem? No big deal. It's a minor niggle. It's a cheap little erase pen, and all I did was just go to the store the next day and buy myself a set of 4, so I'm not going to run out anymore. And at least I can have a better colour. So, yeah, minor niggle, but that's just one little component that's not really going to get used again. But otherwise, insert, artwork, components, score pad. I love the idea of a dry erase score pad. I think that's great. I wish more games would do this, because then you just need a pen and you don't have to worry about score pad sheets and running out and all the paper everywhere. Nope. Very good idea. Love this. But everything else in here, solid. All the location tiles, they're thick cardboard, they're sturdy, nothing's going to just break. The cards are, quite tiny, but you can see the detail on them because the in-jokes are just there. You can read them at your heart's content. Mainly, you just need to see what letter is on there, what order it's in, and the symbols for the various categories. Easy to tell. Everything's very easily distinguished. It's certainly not language independent, no, because even though the book cards themselves don't require you to know much, the locations have got a fair bit of text on them, and we'll get onto that a little bit later. But yeah, solid in components. How does it play? If you get immersed into this theme, you're gonna love it, because I've been having a blast playing this game. Every time I play it, you just get into that whole fantastical setting. You start joking about the books that come up on those cards. You start joking with the special workers that everyone's got, because everyone's got a special worker that does a different thing for each player, and it's anything from a Sasquatch to a snowman to a gelatinous cube to a little goblin to a wizard. There's all sorts of weird stuff in there, but each one has their own, I forgot to mention this for components actually, their own custom giant wooden meeple. I mean, I'll show a picture of them. I won't get them out of the box now, but everyone's got these chunky meeples. Such a good design. But the theme is very strong. You are building a library, and all the books and all the fantastical locations, like a book swap, a book collector, the wishing well, a garbage dump. There's all sorts of cool locations you can visit that make sense. They allow you to get books in various different ways and shelve them. And it's very much hand management and tableau building. Because yes, it's worker placement, but you've only got 3 workers, so it's not like you've got tons to think about. And yeah, spaces can be blocked, but only occasionally is that really going to hamper you. There's usually ways that you can get around it, but you have to be careful with what cards you're hanging on to in case they might get stolen or lost, although not that often. It depends which ones you're playing with. But you need to be very careful about building up the library itself, and that's one of the biggest focuses of the game, because you cannot have a library more than 3 rows high, and there are restrictions as to how you can shelve cards. And now at the end of the game, if your stuff's not in alphabetical order, you've got to flip cards over and they don't count for squat. So you need to be making certain that you keep an eye on the letters. And that doesn't mean that you need to be A, B, C, D, F, G or whatever. You can be A, E, H, J, T, W or whatever. That's still fine. It's in order. Yeah, you've skipped some letters, but that doesn't hamper you as long as they're in order. And you'll quickly get to a point where you've shelved some cards. There's only so many ways in the game that you have the potential to shift the books around once you've placed them. So you'll get that irritating thing of all right, I'll put this one here. Oh, for crap, that. And then you draw the next one, the letter that could have slotted in even better. And it's I can't fit it in. There's a lot of cool decisions to make and a lot of good tension with shelving your library. The game itself plays from 1 to 4 players, and that means there is a solo mode in there. The solo mode is pretty decent actually. It plays pretty much like the multiplayer version. It's just that rather than having the specific timer, you have this other timer, which is the deck running out of cards over the course of the game, and the focus for what can score you points is actually hidden from you. So it's quite a neat little addition, and I quite enjoyed the solo play of it. When you're used to how the game plays, you can actually get through the solo mode relatively quickly. in the time length it says on the box, about 45 minutes. And that's a very fixed time limit, shall we say. The box says 45 minutes, flat out, nothing else. I would have penciled in the caveat that that should be 45 minutes with one player. Maybe you can do this in 2-player 45 minutes, but you gotta be playing pretty quick. You know, you're talking about an hour with 2 players, at least. You're talking a good between hour to 90 minutes with 3 players. You could be going over 90 minutes with 4 players if you're not careful, because there's a lot of text to read. As each location comes out, and there's like about 20-something different locations, maybe more, and each one has got their realm of text and how they work. Now, if you are used to playing the game, you're going to know what these do as they come out. But if you're new or teaching new players, you've got to explain every single location. And there's going to be at least 2, 3 or 4 locations revealed every round, depending on the player count. So that's a lot of stuff to explain. And some people might struggle a little bit because they'll be thinking, right, well, I've only just learned those locations. Now I've got to learn these ones. So the game can slow a little bit as that. And that's why I don't tend to want to play this with 4 players. I'm more interested, as a 3-player game, it was pretty good. 2-player game, it shines. It's a really great 2-player game. And I enjoyed solo, so 1, 2 or 3 players, I think, is a pretty good way to go. Not to say that 4 is bad. You just have to accept that 4 might go on a little bit longer unless you are with players who are used to this type of game, worker placement, spatial awareness, that kind of thing, and are used to reading text. Because there's not like there's tons of text, but like I say, you've got to learn how every different location works and then formulate your tactics around that. So it can slow some people down, so I recommend not playing this with anybody who's got analysis paralysis in any way, shape or form. But like I say, 1 to 4 players, about 45 to 90 minutes. If it's taking you longer than 90 minutes, then you've got some slow players, or it might be your first game. I accept that my first game was a 4-player game. That took a little bit of time because even I had to remember what all the locations did. But eventually, you get used to them, and that time will come down. Not quite to the level of 45 minutes with 3 or 4 players, God no. But you will certainly at least manage to get it to less than 90 easily enough, and maybe closer to the 1 hour mark if you're really, really quick. In terms of scoring at the end of the game, I found that it varies as to whether there's a dominant winner or some very close scores. It really does depend on what each player is doing with regards to the various scoring conditions. Certainly you need to be paying attention to those prominent works because that can be a pretty big factor, but then as I found out in one game, somebody who got the most prominent works still lost outright to 3 players because they didn't do well in other categories. Do not underestimate any of the categories, to be honest. They all will score you useful points. Though maybe I would say the shelf stability one is probably the weaker of them. If you have to have a slightly unstable shelf arrangement, that's not necessarily going to hamper you that much, but really pay attention to the prominent works and also the library focus you have and the categorical variety, those ones. The ones that are specific to the books you have rather than the shape of your library. The shape of your library is more just like a few extra points. It's kind of like the equivalent of the 5 gold for 1 point thing at the end of a game. They're useful, don't ignore them completely, but unlikely to swing the game for you compared to some of the other things in this game. And if you're worried about downtime between turns, you could always just read half of the jokes on the cards. There's some great ones on here. The Equal Rights for Orcs is one that I remember quite well. Just to read a few more off the back of the box here, we've got Melt Any Object, we've got Jumping Jellyfish, Juices with Various Uses, Harpies, Hogs and Dog Witches or something like that. Herbology for Herbiology, Parasites in You, Parasites and You, something Pandas, can't quite read that one, but there's all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff in this game. So the setting and the theme is very strong and it's brought out nicely. So with this, you just need to treat it as a kind of lightweight, well, not lightweight, medium weight, I'd say. There's a fair amount you've got to think about. You can't just ignore everything, but the theme makes it feel light. You're there's a lot to deal with the worker placement spots and the books and how you're going to score and shelve your library. But the theme is, it's hard to describe. It's not cutesy, it's just fun. Because if you try and sell this game as, you're building a library, that's not going to win over many players to your cause. but you mentioned that you're building a fantastical library with humorous books, with worker placement mixed with obscure shelving mechanics and stuff, then it will sell the game more. And that's assuming that they haven't looked at this and just gone, what's this? Wow, that's colourful. Looked at the back of the box and just gone mad with the aesthetics. It really is an eye-opener. So I'm really enjoying Ex Libris. I'm definitely going to hang on to this one in my collection. It's a great worker placement, tableau management game. Certainly probably the best thing I've seen from Renegade games to date. I've really been enjoying this one. Personal rating, I have to say, really, I think I would probably give this an 8 or a 9. It's definitely, high on my list. Maybe, the box could have been slightly smaller, okay, and like I say, the downtime can get a bit long with 4, and there was that small little niggle with the pen thing, but that might have literally just been me. But as long as you're aware that your first couple of games may be slow because of all the text you're reading, then you should be on your way. Once you get used to the game, you'll start zipping through it quicker because you're used to those locations. And to be fair on Renegade games, they do provide some ways to make the game easier for beginners. You don't have the special meeples and that. It recommends locations that you can take out to make the game easier to understand, or to take out for the game to be less direct conflict. There's a few locations that do interact with other players, but the interaction is not bad. I'll give it that. It's not multiplayer solitaire. You have to be taking account of what everyone else has got in their library, because it's like, right, well, they can't fit those letters in there, so if I give them this card, they're not going to be able to use it. Oh, he's getting all the prominent works. He might overtake me. I need to be aware and get more of these. If I go to this location, I can nick cards from their hands and try and shelve one of them myself. So there's a reasonable amount of interaction, certainly more than you get in most Euro games, but just maybe not like a huge ton of it. But certainly enough to keep it going, and with the variety in books, the variety in like having your own personal focus, and the variety of locations every round, it's both strategic and tactical, and there's a good amount of variety in those starting meeples and locations, and if they want to expand it, they could just throw in more of those locations, more of those cards, just don't overcomplicate it anymore. So, props to Ex Libris. I really like it, staying in the collection, great game and highly recommended. So that's it for me. I'm not going to go off and read any books because, frankly, I don't have many books other than accountancy textbooks, an Arkham Horror Investigators book, and a ton of good food cookbooks and some Jamie Oliver cookbooks. Hey, I like to cook, what can I say? We need better cooking games. So that's it for me. See you on the next episode. If you like what you see, please subscribe to the channel, check out my podcast and blog, and I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple review.